that sometimes they bring stories from home, so just be mindful of that. They're distracted easily by noise. So if they hear a song or they hear something, they're instantly going to want to go to that place where the songs
It's
or the
more than that,
rhythms.
they can hear the hum of the lights or the air
Yes,
conditioner.
yes.
You know, any of, you know, that we kind of can just tune out and don't even realize it's making a noise.
Mhm.
They hear that noise.
Not only do they hear it, sometimes they'll copy that noise. They'll start humming like the lights. I think we had one who hummed to the lights. Their strengths, they're very good listeners. They have good memories. They're well spoken. They're going to be able to talk to you clearly. They're going to know what they want to say and how they want to say it. They learn sounds and rhymes easily. So this group, when you're learning like the letter A sound, they're going to pick it up quick because it's a sound and it can be turned into like a musical sound. And they follow directions well. You want to add anything to our touch?
I think that's,
Their weaknesses, they are distracted by noise. Any little noise in your room, it could be somebody coughing, they're going to be distracted by it. Reading, their weakness in reading is because it doesn't have a flow. It's not there's no rhymes, there's no songs. Now they could probably read something and turn it into it, but it's going to be hard for them to comprehend what they're reading without that rhythm and sound to it. Understanding graphs and charts, they're not going to understand what it all means. Again, it's because it has no rhythm or sound to it. Writing is the same way. They're going to have a hard time writing down what they're thinking because they think in rhymes and songs. Sitting quietly, this group's not going to sit quietly. Again, they want to move around, they want to sing, they want to chant. It's just who they are, and that's okay. And I have a video for some study tips for these learners. Strategies. Let them study with somebody or in a group. And the reason for this is, like if you have a ball, you can toss it back and forth with them and you can make a rhyme or a song out of, the 10 Commandments. They can sing that. Let them read notes out loud. And that is, if they read it out loud, then they're going to catch it because they're going to probably put it in a song or a chant. Record notes and let them listen to them. Let them have like a little tape recorder, and while you're doing your lesson, let them record it, or you record it later and send it to them.
so that's how they're gonna study is
Yes.
listen back to those.
Yes. Word association, like songs and rhymes. And then have them avoid distractions. If they're studying, you don't have to have them like in a totally quiet room, but you don't need to have a whole lot out. I know for me, when I do anything, from like putting together a PowerPoint or doing cleaning at home, I always have some sort of music on. I gotta have that little bit of noise just to center me, I think it is. So you can have music on, but it cannot be lyrical. It needs to be just straight noise, just like a brook or just something that they can hear. If you put lyrics into it, they're gonna start singing the song instead of studying what they need to be studying. And I have a teacher aid. It's a video of the 10 Commandments being sung. In review, auditory learners listen to understand. They're good listeners. Learn and recognize sounds easily. Distracted by noise easily, and use song and rhymes to help learn. Our next learner is a naturalistic learner, and there's an introduction video to what a naturalistic learner is. A naturalistic learner, they understand through nature and through the environment they are in. So this group, I guess I can consider myself this group, partly. They love nature. They rather be outside learning than being inside. And that's me. I'd rather be outside with my hands in the dirt, learning about flowers than being stuck in a classroom, learning to read. Characteristics, they like to work outside. They're gonna wanna be outside. They're neat and organized and good planners. They're good planners by that if they wanna grow a garden, they're gonna plan out that garden, how they want it, where they want it, because they have the understanding, well, you can't put tomatoes with squash because the squash is gonna overrun the tomatoes. So they're very good planners in everything that they do. These are your learners that are emotional. They're emotional if they feel like they've done something wrong, or if they hurt something, or if they hurt an animal, if they hurt a person. They're very
real tender-hearted.
Yes, they're very tender-hearted, and not just towards people, but people towards themselves too. They get down on themselves if they make a mistake. So when these learners do make a mistake, make sure you pick them back up and tell them, it's okay, we can fix it, it's all right. They like to use all their senses to learn. They like to touch, they like to taste, they like to smell, see. They love all of that.
So actually, as a newborn baby, most people are natural
Yes.
learners.
Yes.
And so this is the group that just kept that as one of their
Yes.
foremost way of learning. Because baby's going to taste everything and touch everything and
Smell everything.
explore. Yes.
Mhm. They will be able to name plants and animals easily. They'll be able to tell you, one of my children, he's also a naturalistic learner, and on his 6th grade trip, they went to the zoo. And they come back and they're like, well, why didn't you know he knew all these animals? I'm like, what do you mean? He said, we went to the zoo and we didn't even have to read the cards. He knew what they were, what they ate, why they ate it. And he loved, Wild Kratts was on at that time, and that was the show about the animals. That's the show that he watched every day, and that's where he learned most of it, because it piqued his interest. So when they went to the zoo, he connected all that information to go into the zoo. So the teachers had a good time being with him, because he was basically teaching the class about all these animals. Their strengths, they're very organized. They're going to keep things organized. They're observant. They're going to observe everything around them.
That's you.
I mean, if they see a spider in the corner, they're going to want to go rescue that spider. That is me. I get upset when somebody comes and brushes the spiders off my classroom window. It upsets me. They see patterns within their environment, meaning like in the sky, they're going to see what kind of patterns the clouds are making. They're going to see, well, this flower's got red, blue, red, blue. They adjust to their environment easily than most children. They're going to adjust, if it's in a loud environment, they're going to adjust to that loudness quickly. If it's quiet, they're going to adjust quickly. Again, they're very caring, and that sometimes can lead to their emotions becoming heightened. They want everybody to be taken care of, and they want to be the ones to take care of them. Their weaknesses. They get frustrated and emotional when they do not understand or do something wrong. So you have to make sure when you see them getting frustrated, calm them down, find out what they don't understand, and remind them just because they made a mistake that it's okay, that they're going to be okay. They have a hard time in a classroom setting. This group is going to have a hard time, because I know I did, sitting in a classroom day after day after day and not being able to be out in the sunshine and touching things and just being out there.
So if you were sitting by the window, it would be no paying attention in class.
No, it wouldn't. Yeah, they moved me quite a bit. For a while, my 5th grade teacher had me right beside the door to go out for recess. She moved me real quick. I saw a rabbit go by and I'm like, ooh, rabbit. Yeah. They move around a lot and distracted by things going on outside. If they see a hummingbird floating around that door, they're going to want to see that hummingbird. Strategies for them are, you need to set them away from the outside doors and windows. Do not put them near doors or windows if it's facing outside, because All they're gonna do is look out that window and find ways to find animals or say, oh, I wanna be outside and I'll do stuff in here. Hands-on activities. Let them feel, touch, taste, smell, whatever you're going over. Let them study outside. I mean, take a blanket outside and let everybody go outside and read. Connect lessons back to nature. So if you're reading a book on butterflies, bring in a butterfly. Bring in a bird, show that, let them touch it or feel it. Bring that outside inside. It's okay to have maybe some plants or flowers or pictures of the outside inside, because that will give them a sense of feeling, okay, I can sit in the classroom because I have some nature around me. I think one of my favorite classrooms was my science class, because they had plants and they had all these, rocks and soil within the classroom. I just wanted to stay there all day.
One of the first things I realized when I went to Ukraine is that all their buildings have plants inside. And I love seeing all the pretty plants there at the seminary, and some of them would be in bloom when I was there. And I thought that was an interesting thing that they had plants in all their buildings that they ever in.
Yeah, beautiful rose garden out front.
Yes, beautiful rose
It's
garden.
good to see that this year.
Yeah.
I think my favorite time of the year was around Christmas, because back when I was in school, you were allowed to bring live trees in.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to take care of the live tree. I got to water it and take care of it. So I always couldn't wait. When are we getting our Christmas tree? 2 weeks out. When are we getting the Christmas tree?
Do you have a live tree now?
No, because I've got one who's allergic.
Oh.
If I didn't have one that was allergic to the cedar and the smell of it, we'd have a live tree. One way you can teach the 10 Commandments with this group is you can get rocks and paint them. You can paint the 10 Commandments on the rocks. Or make clay. Get some clay pots and write the 10 Commandments on the clay pots. In review, they learn through nature, they're organized, planners, and neat, they're caring, they have a hard time in the classroom, hands-on activities, and they bring the outside inside. Y'all have anything to add, or? Ooh, my favorite group, kinesthetic learners. There's a short video for kinesthetic learners. This group are the mover and shakers. They understand by doing. They're also known as tactile learners.
They're often diagnosed as ADHD.
Yes. Characteristics of this group is they're doers. They're gonna go and do, and do, and do. I don't think I've ever met a kinesthetic learner that didn't just want to do go all the time. They do well in physical activities like football, baseball, softball. If you give them a ball, they're going to be able to catch it, kick it, throw it, bounce it. They like to act things out. So they're going to like to, if you're reading a book like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, they're going to want to act that out. So let them be Goldilocks or one of the three bears, let them act it out. They will physically touch you to get your attention. They're not going to say, hey, hey, hey. No, they're going to actually touch you.
Or tap.
Or tap, yeah. To get your attention. These are your talkers that are going to talk really, really loud so they can be heard. They want to be heard. They have messy handwriting because they don't want to sit there and write their name or write their letters. They're going to have that myth. They just want to get it done and be done. And they're poor spellers. And they're poor spellers because they don't want to take the time to have to figure out how to spell that word.
But if you could toss the ball to them, they could spell you the word back and forth just like that.
Oh, yes.
If you could put a motion to it instead of just writing.
Their strengths, they're good with their hands-on activities. They're very good, like Miss Holly said, if you have a ball and you're throwing it back and forth, they're going to learn it. They're doers. If there's something in your classroom that needs to be done, cleaning-wise, hand them a washcloth and they would probably clean for days, wouldn't they? We've got a couple that would.
I had a boy that actually, because I knew he needed to move, I had a basket with some magazines, and so it made it a little bit heavy, and I would have him take it to the teacher across the hall just to give him some physical work of something heavy to do to kind of help him get some of those motions out. And then she'd give it back to me later so he could take it again another time when he needed to.
These are your athletes, they're good at sports. I mean, they're very, very good at sports. They have good hand-eye coordination. Like, if you tell them to jump on one foot, they're gonna be able to do it, most of them. They're gonna be good on the balance beam, physically, they're gonna be able to do most things. And they're gonna be competitive. They're gonna be very, very competitive. They want to win.
They can't be still.
No, they cannot be still. Weaknesses, they are distracted easily. So if somebody over in one group is doing something physical, that's where they're going to want to be. They're going to be distracted by noise too. If they hear noise, they're going to want to know what it is, what's going on, and go right to it. They're poor spellers. They have messy handwriting. They cannot sit still. This is where your fidgets with this group come in handy. I know I'm missing mine too.
Yeah.
I keep doing this with my hands.
I think I forgot to bring the one that you can put on the chair where they can just.
I brought it.
You brought one.
Yeah, I brought one because I
So
had
they
one.
can just sit there and play with that with their
Yes.
feet, because their feet can't be still, their hands can't be still
No.
either.
They have a really hard, even if it's, I think Miss Holly touched on my child, when he comes to church, he cannot sit in the pew for an hour, so he'll just get up and go into the kitchen and pace back and forth and come back down and sit, and everybody knows what he's doing, so they just, okay, he needed to get up for a minute. They have a hard time following step-by-step directions. And I think it's more of an impatient thing than a connective thing. Because they just want, okay, I don't
They
know.
want the finished product.
Yeah, they want it, they want to get it done and they want it now. They don't want to know how to get from point A to point B
Mhm.
and how many steps it takes to get them there.
These are the ones that will drive a teacher crazy. You have to find ways to channel that energy, and then once you find something that they're good at and they enjoy, then they suddenly become your favorite, because you feel like, oh, I've helped them calm down, but you've adjusted yourself to their
Yeah.
style.
Yeah.
Like getting one of the yoga ball to sit at the table. Because if they have a yoga ball, they can just sit and bounce while they're working.
But where you take a learner like me, if you got somebody bouncing in a ball next to me, I
Yeah.
can't work at all.
Yeah. So there has to be a happy medium with everything.
Well, they don't sit next to the person who's distracted by
Yeah.
the noise and movement.
Yeah, this is where you have to know your students.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you have to adjust to them.
Yes.
Yes, you
Yeah.
have to adjust to them.
Yeah.
This is how they are made. God wired them this way.
Yeah.
And you're not going to change it. And when
Yeah.
you try to put everybody in the same mode, all you're doing is making everybody miserable,
Yeah.
including yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't think you have good management, but the thing is, you're trying to manage them into something that's not even their style.
Yeah.
But we also have to be careful of not putting all of one style in one group though too, don't we?
Yeah, they can't be together
Yeah.
usually of the combination.
It'll
I
cause
think
chaos.
Yeah.
It'll cause chaos.
And even in groups like a committee at church and stuff, you have to think about these different styles. And it's also a kind of personality styles go with it.
Yeah.
So that you understand each other, because you're gonna have one person over here fidgeting, another one trying to control the meeting. And instead of getting upset with everybody, you have to think, this is the way they're wired. How can we work together?
Mhm.
Because those are strengths
Yeah.
to help each other.
Yeah.
If we look at their strengths instead of just looking at the weaknesses of them.
I call it controlled chaos. You're gonna have chaos, but just try to control the chaos. And some days you'll do it very, very well, and some days you'll go home going, ooh, I crashed and burned today.
Well, as we look at Jesus and his disciples, we see all kinds of learners and how he taught us to be a part of everybody
Yeah.
and accept everybody as they are.
Well, I mean, it's like the verses I read today. I mean, you had multiple people from multiple nations in one spot, and yet they all heard the message because they all heard it in each their own language, and you connect it back to the learners. That's instead of language, we're just doing it with learners instead. So some of the strategies for this group is put words, letters, or math facts on note cards. If you put them on note cards, they can walk around the room or find a corner where they can, that's their area. They can just walk in circles and just look at those note facts. I did that a lot. If I had to study for something, I was usually on the road outside going through those math facts or those vocabulary words. I had to actively be doing something to do it. Take active breaks. Some people don't like this, but I really like it. I consider them brain breaks, where they actually get up and they do something physical.
My son was definitely this style, and some teachers had a really hard time with him, especially English. And he kept telling me my English teacher hates me. And year after year, I thought, there's something wrong with this pattern, because it's always the English teacher that hates you. But that was the sit down, listen, write, read. And he didn't like to read books or do writing activities. But he finally got an English teacher who worked about his style. And when she would see she was losing him, she would tell him to drop and give her 20. And he'd do 20 push-ups, and he was ready to go again. He loved her. Because she saw he's got to move now, or I've lost him.
I mean, I love active breaks. Some do, some don't. But I guess my philosophy for every 30 minutes you teach, there should be at least maybe a 5 to 10 minute. And I think we do that a lot in our room.
Our activities change real frequently. And even in sermons, statistically, they say adults listen for about 15 minutes. Well, sermons last a lot longer than that. So, you know, that's where he needs to show a visual or raise his voice and get loud for a minute or something to bring you back again to, okay, I'm going to listen again.
Have group hands-on activities. So put them in groups and do bounce the ball back and forth, do a science experiment. Make snowballs out of cornstarch and shaving cream. I mean, any of those activities would be good. Take a Coca-Cola and put Mentos in it and let them watch it go poof. Keep their hands and feet busy. So the fidget spinners. I don't like fidget spinners, but some people do. I don't know, they bother me for some reason. The rubber band on the bottom of the seats.
There's cushions in the seats so they can come.
I don't see it. I like the pipe cleaners. I like getting pipe cleaners out of our craft closet, just having them and just twisting them while I'm sitting there with the kids. Act out the story that's being taught. I know that's one of my favorite things that we do, is when they do Little Red Riding Hood and they're all, and one of them goes, "What big ears you have." You just sort of giggle because they're having a good time, and that's one of my favorite activities we do. Let them trace in the air. You know, if you're saying, well, this is the letter A, let them trace the letter A, put it in the air. Well, now let's write a B, so write a B. So they're physically doing something.
Well, you're getting that whole arm movement, so they're getting a lot of movement. And writing on the board will do the same thing, where they can do that large movement.
A teaching aid for them is like pass the ball back and forth while they're saying the 10 Commandments, the book of the Bibles, or the fruit of the spirits. Another activity on this that I found is cup stacking. The cup stacking. You put the books of the Bible on the cup stacking, and they have to put them in order and build it up from Genesis to Revelations, and then they push it back down. My kids really enjoyed that. The fruit of the spirits, I brought in different fruits for each spirit and let the kids play with them and eat them.
Got the smell coming in there too to help those naturalistic people.
So in review, they are doers. They move around a lot. Good hand-eye coordination. They're loud. They're poor spellers. They need active breaks, and they need to act out or trace.
My son moved so much growing up, I said, you're gonna either have to be a preacher or a used car salesman. So he's the car salesman. Because he gets to move around a lot. He never has to sit still.
So my question for you today, as we end this lesson, what kind of learner are you? And you can be, I find it interesting because you can be more than one learner. You can be a verbal learner and be a naturalistic learner. You can be a visual learner and a naturalist. I mean, you can be more than
Most people
one
have
learner.
more than
Yes.
one. One may be a little more dominant than
Yeah.
the other.
You know, I think for me, I know I'm really naturalistic and I have some of the kinesthetic, but I think visual, I'm with y'all with visual. Like, there was a sermon and the preacher said, well, God's knocking on the door. So the first thing I did was draw a picture of a door and had knock, knock, knock written out beside it. And that's how I remember specifically that sermon, was because of that. Do you have anything for closing?
Well, your question there is what kind of learner are you? We've identified as a visual, but I guess kinesthetic comes with me next. I do have to fidget with something, and I'm not going to learn unless I can do it. You can tell me all day how to do it, but if you don't let me do it, you showing me how to do it won't teach me till I get to do it. And that's even with the computer. People start out, they want to teach you, well, here's what you do. You let me be the one on the computer, and you let me do it. And like I said, well, if you want me to learn it, I've got to get my hands on it. So.
You know what, I'm a combination of them all. But I like to be outside learning, and I'm like Sandra, I got to feel it, I got to touch it, I got to smell it. And it's very frustrating to be in a learning situation where your learning style is not recognized, and you're trying to adjust. And if we can just see our students as individuals,
Yes.
and let them be themselves with some guidance.
Yes.
So we can take all this, and we know that people need things for sensory, and we can use that
Yes.
even in a church service.
Yeah.
If you need something to help you concentrate. Now, I'm accommodated there on my own as an adult because I have to have paper and pencil. I can play with my pencil or pen, but I have to have the paper to take notes on. I'm not going to listen unless I can write it down. If I write down key points, I don't even like it if there's just fill in the blank. I want to write my own notes, but I will fill in a blank, but I'm going to write notes all around it too, not just to put the word. I usually put the word before they ever say it, and I may not have got the exact same word, but I've got something similar to it. And so, I find a way to accommodate to keep me sitting there listening. But children don't always know how to accommodate that, and that's where you really have to help them, like, what do you like? And play on that and figure out this is how they learn best.
And I know as a Sunday school teacher, some ways I do that is I send home a questionnaire home at the beginning of every year. And I know sometimes they're like, well, we filled it. I said, I know, but I need you to fill it back again because some things change. And then I take those home and I look at them like, okay, so this child's like this might be this. And then I watch them throughout the sermon, through my Sunday school lesson. I had a couple who loved to be outside, so I had my husband bring one of the canopies, and we had a lesson outside for the canopies, but I still had my verbal stuff for my verbal children and for my visual learners. I have a cabinet in my room that has everything that I might need for those learners. And I always make sure I have something if I'm doing the 10 Commandments.
She even has a parachute.
Yes, I do have a parachute. I make sure I have something, okay, well, this one and this one is here today. I need to make sure I have this, this, and this. I know when we had an autistic child and he loved butterflies. So I made sure I had some butterfly stuff. If we finished up early, if he sat there and listened, he could have that butterfly stuff and tell me everything he wanted to know about butterflies. And a lot of times he would color on that page and still be listening to me. So it was a way to make him feel comfortable and he's still getting the lesson and getting what he needs in God's word, you know.
You know, I think about our nonverbal children and with learning styles, how frustrating it must be for them to want to participate, but they're not able to verbalize it, and that's when behaviors begin. And if we can recognize, oh, let's give them prompts or activities that they can participate in and find out what their styles are.
That's why they like role play with that, because they can get up and act it out without the words, you know, just doing the motions of stuff can help a whole lot to help them feel a part of what's going on. Even something to hold. You know, if you have a child with limited mobility, if they can hold something or have a picture close by to look at while you're teaching the lesson, then you're trying to find a way to include them. Musical instruments, sometimes to hold a musical instrument. And if you want everyone to concentrate on listening, you could say something like, when you hear the word Jesus, ring the bell. And then they're going to listen more intently so that they'll be ready to ring their bell when you say the right word or something.
I had a wise teacher tell me one time that no matter what a person's disability was, they could still learn.
Yes.
And you give them that opportunity to be a learner.
Yes. My exceptional learners professor told us that. She said, not every child with disabilities or without, you can't put them in a little box. You got to take them out of the box and let them grow and let them learn that best suits them.
Everyone can learn, and some of the things that we expect people to learn, they may not ever learn all of those, but they're always learning if you're given the opportunity to learn. And I've never seen a child, regardless of how severe their disability was, that couldn't quickly learn how to manipulate you.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So that their minds are working and they're learning.
Yes.
All right, we thank you.